So now you take this information back to Anna's teacher and show her her present levels of performance and where we'd like Anna to be. And you sit down to have a conversation about what would be a reasonable intervention given the classroom situation. The mentor teacher said that based off her personal experience with students, her caseload, and then also stigmatizing Anna, her preference would be to not add anything, but yet just to give verbal reminders to get Anna back on cue. So you're going to come back over here to sheet 1, and you go back into the classroom and you are taking data once a day, every day for the first couple of things. Now you don't want to spread it out to weekly data sessions until you know the intervention's working. You want to be doing something daily until you get a good sense. Now I go in, I take data every day, and I'm going to pause this and enter it. Now what you can see is that with the verbal reminder, Anna's not doing a whole lot better. In fact, I'm going to show you really quick. You can go back over to your data, your graph, and add this by clicking on your chart here. And if you go up to chart and source data, don't worry about this box. You can put in all this programming, but it's not something you necessarily want to do. I'm going to hold down my shift key and my arrow key and go down one more row. Now watch. There you go. So it's not that she's not improving, but at the same time, that's barely getting her where she needs to go. And she actually started off better and she's gone downhill a little bit. So you talk with the teacher again. And the teacher said, yeah, you know what, the more I think about it, me constantly saying, Anna, where are you? Anna, eyes on me. Anna, those kinds of verbal prompts are actually more stigmatizing now that she's thinking about it. So the two of you come up with an idea to use something that the school district had bought called a Watchminder. Now, this is kind of a buzzer, if you will. Looks like a watch, wouldn't be very stigmatizing to Anna. And it would just go off at predetermined intervals. And then you decide to layer that with a self-monitoring checklist. So this is the one the teacher had. You thought this would work out. It gives a little bit of a description on what it means to pay attention and what it means to not be paying attention. And you decide that this coupling is going to be a nice intervention that could work for Anna and not be very stigmatizing. So again, we're going to take data every day until we determine that this is useful. And I'll show you, I'll put it on the chart in a minute, but what you realize is after 5 days, she is making really nice strides in improvement to the point where you feel comfortable taking data once a week and watching the data. So I'm going to enter in that data so that we can see what it looks like as the time goes along. So here we are once again in Anna's sheet. I'm going to toggle back over to sheet and enter in her data. And there's our watch again. Alright, so I've entered in her data and I'm going to show you again how to make your graph recognize that. So I'm going to click on the bottom tab. I'm going to click anywhere on my graph data here. I'm going to come up to chart and source data. And I'm going to hold down my shift key and my down arrow key so that it just adopts one more row. Click OK, and there we go. So our intervention is looking incredibly successful. And one thing as we put in data and our new dates, remember we had placeholder dates to begin with, one of the things we do need to adjust is make sure our aim line was again at the last point of our data. You just see that kind of got a little wompy. We've got to get that back up to the 80% by October 29th. So that gives you a better indicator. Just make sure your aim line doesn't get too messed up as you're making these decisions. So I'm going to pause that here and we'll get back into tweaking the final pieces.